Welcome to the Newest Theatre Show. This is a show where I talk to developers that are self-taught or have been to coding boot camps, and I find out how they've become successful. I'm joined today by Tom Hirst, who's a developer from the UK, and we're going to be getting into learning WordPress, getting freelance clients, building up a six-figure income, and loads more. So welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks for having me, Pete. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, no worries, man. So first of all, can you tell us a bit about where you're from and where you're based and everything?
Yeah, sure. So I'm originally from a small town in the UK called Barnsley. I live in Wakefield now, which is about 10 minutes away from Leeds. I've just built up this freelance business on myself, in not really with local clients or anything like that, because obviously location's quite irrelevant at the minute. And it was even irrelevant back 10, 12 years ago when I started, but even more so now. So yeah, based in Yorkshire.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think that's really great for a start because lots of people can become developers and don't have to go to the big town or the big city. So for me myself, I've lived in London a couple of times, but I've no desire to ever live there long term. And lots of jobs, I think, lots of sectors, all the jobs are in London, or in the States, all the jobs are in San Francisco or New York. So yeah, it's really great to be able to work remotely because you've always worked from home, haven't you?
Yeah, I have, yeah. And I just found that to be easier, for me. I worked better that way. So I always approach clients that were happy with that arrangement as well.
Yeah, perfect. So I guess because you've got home office and everything, you kind of just it's business as usual, in terms of COVID and everything, you've just been doing the same thing, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was the work side of my life was pretty much just a continuation, really. But then obviously, there's the other stresses of the lockdowns, not being able to do the social stuff. When you work from home, you need that perspective, if you know what I mean. You need that outside influence from your friends and your family and things like that. So yeah, while it's been business as usual on the coding side of things, it's been a little bit stressful on the other side.
Yeah, that's a fair call. I really liked running anyway, but because I work from home and I was doing that before COVID, I just, running and cycling and making sure I'm getting outside helps a lot. So yeah, definitely even developers don't want to be probably inside 24/7, or it's not, maybe they do, but it's not very healthy probably. It's good to have a break.
Exactly. Exactly. I think I thought that I would cope with it really well, just because of what you said before, just business as usual. But I did notice that missing out on the gym and things like that, it definitely has effect, on your coding and things like that too.
Yeah, definitely. And I see as well, it's kind of a trope that on Twitter people will be like, "Oh, I was stuck on this bug for hours," and then the next day I woke up and then it's just "Oh yeah, I fixed it in 2 seconds." So it's yeah, it's good to take a break, definitely.
Definitely.
So yeah, you don't have a CS degree or anything like that.
No.
How did you learn to code?
So I went to when I was, let's go back right to the beginning actually. So I can remember when I was about 13, 14, my mum and dad bought a Packard Bell PC. I think it must have cost the earth back then, $5,000 or something.
Yeah.
With a 56k modem and all that. And I just became kind of obsessed with the internet and building websites and GeoCities and all that kind of stuff. And I think you had some small options where you could customize, and I used to make banners in Photoshop and things like that. And then I progressed then to an after school course. So when I was doing my GCSEs when I was 15, I did an after school course at the college on HTML. And that's the first coding experience that I had. And then I went to university and I actually studied multimedia and communication design. So it's not a CS degree, but it was, more videography and design and things like that. But then I kind of got reintroduced to coding again while I was there, because we had a free reign module where we could pretty much do whatever we wanted. And I ended up building a website for my uncle's band in WordPress. So I was about 20 then, 20, 21, something like that. And that ended up being my, part of my 1/6 of the the credit for my degree. And then, I just continued with WordPress and stuck with it ever since, and just continued on my coding journey, really, into JavaScript and other languages.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I think what's interesting about you is that you've built up this freelance business over the years. So you've kind of just taken your own path. You've not worked for someone else. So I think that's really attractive to lots of people, because quite a lot of people don't want to work the 9 to 5, or there's that kind of option's not so secure as it used to be. So do you have any tips for if someone's just starting out, how they can get their first freelance clients and things like that? Yeah,
I think it's probably the harder route to take, if I'm being honest. If you not getting a job first and some real world experience, instead of just going straight into it like what I did. But I mean, the first tip that I have is to learn to be a good marketer, as well as being a good coder. Because being a good coder is not enough if you're wanting to go freelance. You need to have business skills and marketing skills too. So definitely think about reading books on the subject. That's what I did, a lot of research into marketing, how to position yourself and things like that. Because without that, it's going to be really difficult to go down the path of straight into freelance without having any contacts or anything like that from previous jobs.
Yeah, no worries. Do you know off the top of your head any books that you can suggest to people to check out for marketing?
I mean, Seth Godin's stuff's really good. He's got about 4 or 5 out there. Purple Cow's a good one. It's kind of about how to differentiate yourself, basically. And to relate that kind of back to my experience, that's what I did with the WordPress stuff. Obviously, WordPress is huge now, but 12 years ago, it wasn't quite as big. Okay. So I just used to advertise myself as a WordPress-only developer. And that's kind of how I got the leads coming in, through that speciality. So, Seth Godin's stuff's really good on marketing. Yeah,
nice one. Yeah, I think I've noticed that definitely from recruiters that have talked on LinkedIn about, positioning in general, because they've said, I remember seeing someone recently say, if they're looking to fill a role, they'll look on LinkedIn for people that are JavaScript developer or React developer or, whatever, a specialty. So if you just put on LinkedIn, I'm a developer, then it's just well, what kind of developer are you? So yeah, I think definitely being more specific and positioning, is really smart, because that can just you can pick your niche kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you just advertise yourself as a web developer only, you're just going to get lost in a sea of other candidates, and that's not to be harsh. That's just the truth. It's really hard for people to find you if you don't give any specificity in what you actually do or what you want to do, and it just makes the whole game a lot harder if you don't pick something that people can find you by.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think as well your point about marketing being important is really good, because I think you can be a really great developer, but if you're talking to a client and you don't know how to sell, or you don't know how to explain, or if you say something really complex, if you go into a cafe and say oh, I'm going to make a headless CMS for you, people will be well, what's that? So I think it's good to be able to talk in a way that your clients can understand.
Definitely. You need to be personable as well, with your marketing, and be able to break down, complex technical things into simpler terms. And that's quite a hard skill to learn, really. When you've got this programming head on your shoulders, you always you've got all the acronyms and things that you know like the back of your hand. But for people that are running a cafe, in your example, it's irrelevant to them, really. They just want the website done in the best possible way, and they want to come to you as the expert to put the best technology in place.
Nice one. Yeah, absolutely. I was wondering, you've talked quite a lot on Twitter about pricing projects, and I guess there's a few different schools of thought, but there's some ways where you can price per the hour, price per the day, or just price for the project. So let's say I'm going to make a website for a cafe. I'm going to just charge for the whole project. And you're definitely a big supporter of project-based pricing. So I was just wondering, like, yeah, what are the advantages of that?
Yeah, I think with project pricing, like the incentives of you and the client are just way more aligned from the off. So what I mean by that is the client knows exactly what they're going to get and what it's going to cost before you shake hands, basically. If you agree like an hourly rate, then really what's the incentive for the programmer to work fast? There isn't one. And I just think it starts things off on a really bad footing. And I just don't think it's good business doing hourly billing. Whereas let's say if a coffee shop wanted, a WordPress website with a custom design, whatever, and I say it's going to cost $5,000, then they know what their financial commitment is right there up front. So it just makes life easier in my experience. There's less things to worry about, mid-project. You don't have to go back and ask for more money, which I don't like doing. It's just nice to give the client an exact figure on what their outcome's going to cost. And I just think it's just a whole way better than doing things and just like guessing with estimates and things like that.
Yeah, no, like when you explain it like that, it really makes sense because, yeah, to use this example again, yeah, if you tell someone, oh, I'll work for £30 an hour and you're making a website for the cafe, then it's just like, well, is it going to cost me $3,000? Is it going to take like a year? Is it going to cost me $30,000? The person doesn't know. So that makes a lot of sense. I was just wondering, because it's project-based, I mean, presumably you have to be, I guess, like really specific about the scope of the project, so it doesn't become, so that they don't, take advantage of you and say, oh, well, that's great, you're doing it for this much, and I'll keep on, I can just add and add and add.
Exactly. Yeah, you need a really specific scope before you give a price. And the thing that I usually do is either that can come from the client themselves, or if they don't have, a precise scope, then I offer to do that with them beforehand, for a paid pre-project. So what I would say is, look, if you've not got a scope that we can fix and we can agree a price on, then I'll do a pre-project with you for X amount and we'll work on that together, which will then enable me to give you that fixed price accurately afterwards. So that's how you would do it to not get taken advantage of from the developer side. Yeah,
awesome. I mean, because of the rise of things like Wix and Squarespace and things like that, I mean, what happens, like if you're talking to a client and maybe you're making a pitch and someone's just like, oh, I might just make it myself with Wix or something like that. I mean, is that just like a client you want to avoid, or like how would you handle that situation?
Yeah, I mean, first I'd try not to get into negotiations with someone like that in the first place. So I would try and pre-qualify before I got on a call or into a meeting. I'd try and talk about budget really early on. I'd try and talk about what I specifically offer, which is custom websites, not theme-based stuff or page builder stuff. So then that kind of pre-qualifies someone before you spend a lot of time in meetings and things like that. But if I did end up in the meeting, then I would just, I'd thank them for the time and say, I don't think that there's a good fit for my services and your project, unfortunately. And then I'd just try and recommend them to someone that I know that would specialize in the thing that they're asking for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I was curious about what you're thinking around that, because I did see like an exchange around that kind of area. And I think as well with selling your services, sometimes like if someone's not going to be a good fit, I mean, you can save yourself a lot of time and hassle if you're like, okay, like I don't want to have to like beg or like do a project which is going to be really cheap or anything, and you can just go for someone that's better suited for your level, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, and you get back more of what you accept as well. So the more of the clients who think that they could just do it on Wix that you accept, the more of them that you will get that, in return. You've got to put some markers down somewhere. It's part of your positioning, really. You've got to make like a deal with yourself that you're not going to, that's just not your client base, and you accept that, and then just keep your foot down basically when those negotiations do come up.
Yeah, nice one. So how do you get clients at the moment? Do you have like a lot of word of mouth, or do you are you actively kind of, pitching your services to people, or what?
Yeah, so I've never really done much outbound stuff. It's all been inbound, and that was kind of by design right from the beginning. So one of the main things obviously is just do a good job. and then you'll get word of mouth coming in and repeat business, and like those two things you can build a successful freelance business on alone. But yeah, my primary tactic has been organic SEO through my personal website. So I've got 2 or 3 landing pages set up with, really specific terms relating to my services that get a lot of traffic. Some weeks, I'm getting like 1 or 2 leads per day from that. So that's always been my constant supply of new prospects coming in, aside from, word of mouth. And the longer that you do things, the network gets bigger, doesn't it? It grows and grows over time. So yeah, that's the main 3 sources are all inbound on my side.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. Do you have any quick like SEO tips for getting those kind of leads?
Yeah, I think again it's more like going specific again. So instead of making a page that describes yourself as freelance like web developer, go like 1 deeper or even 2 deeper. Like freelance WordPress developer was one of the things that I targeted. But obviously now that's just too saturated to try and target, and I'm probably too far in front of you with the backlinks and things. But if you wanted to say, if you're a JavaScript developer, target like React or even a vertical as well, like startups or something like that. Try and be more specific in what you're offering on your landing pages, and you've got a lot better chance of getting SEO traction.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really cool. I know that you're like a big supporter of the idea of like building an audience and like getting more work that way. Can you talk us through that?
Yeah, sure. I think the audience that I'm building is kind of not really to get more freelance work. It's to really help other people in the freelance game. So it's a little bit different, but I think that the plan works either way. I think, I mentor a lot of freelancers as well. And one of the tactics that we've talked about is to, make friends with other freelancers because you might get their overflow work and things like that. So there's a lot of benefits to having an audience, and I think it's a worthwhile investment for freelancers that are looking to get more work, or perhaps people like me who are looking to create educational products and things like that too. Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. And I think like, I found over the last couple of years building up like nocs3.com, like that's like improved my network massively. So yeah, it's definitely always a good thing to know more people and everything. Can you tell us about some of the educational products that you've been selling on Gumroad recently?
Yeah, sure. So I started doing this about 11, 12 months ago now. And I just thought, how can I kind of like productize my experience basically? And there seems to be a lot of like programming resources already, but not so much like how to freelance, the business of freelancing, marketing and things like that. So yeah, I just started with a free one called 10 Steps to Becoming a Better Freelancer. And basically what that one is just my manifesto of the 10 commandments, or whatever you want to call them, of how I built up my freelance career over the years and what I feel is important for freelancers looking to level up. So that was the first one that I released about a year ago, 11 months ago, something like that. And then a few months after that, I had a viral thread, I don't know if you saw it, about freelance projects, and it went like crazy viral. I think it had like something like 2.5 million impressions. So I thought, yeah, I know. So I thought I'm onto something here. So I wrote my second ebook about, just fleshing out that thread, basically expanding on it quite a lot. Because obviously people liked the content. And then after that, in January this year, I released my first video course, which is the personal website playbook, which is kind of like what we touched on before, like how to get, leads, opportunity and revenue for yourself through your personal website from multiple revenue streams, whether that be, services, products, mentorship and blogging and things like that.
Yeah, that's magic. It's so good to be able to productize yourself. And I think as well, I made like an ebook on imposter syndrome, and I've actually made that as a kind of freebie for people to sign up to my newsletter. And yeah, my conversions have like gone through the roof since then. So you don't even need to be charging. You can just, I've seen lots of people like build up really big mailing lists with resources for developers. And then
Yeah, definitely.
And then obviously you can use that if you're launching a business or launching paid products. That's really useful.
Yeah, that's kind of like what the tactic was with the 10 steps to becoming a better freelancer in the beginning. I just wanted to get something out there free for people, but also use it to build my mailing list. I think I've got like 4,500 people that have downloaded that. So it's a pretty good start. And then obviously any other products that I do release thereafter, they're likely to be interested in them too. So yeah, it's a really good tactic for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I've just last couple of days, I've just been telling everyone that I know with the newsletter, just like give something away for free. Like people like free stuff. And then that's like a really good way to get people on your list and then, yeah, build it out from there. I know that you're like really big on the kind of like headless CMS for WordPress. And that's that kind of like a lot of people are saying that's the future for WordPress. Can you explain what that is for people and why that's going to be like the future?
Yeah, sure. So like we have like this Jamstack headless approach now in web development where we're kind of splitting everything off into like API driven microservices and things like that. And relating that to my experience with WordPress, I think WordPress has kind of got this perception by a lot of people of being like quick, cheap, easy, free and things like that. Whereas it kind of gets discounted from solving these more advanced digital problems, if you know what I mean. And I think that that's a bit of a bad take, really, because WordPress is super extendable, super flexible, and I've been solving hard problems with it for 12 years. So, and anyway, to relate it back to the headless stuff, like I really believe that, JavaScript is just going to take over. It already is, React, Vue, all these new front-end technologies, Gatsby, Next.js. It just gives you a way to primarily like build really nice frameworks. It's a modular way of developing, and then the businesses at the end of it get a really fast site. It's scalable. There's SEO benefits. There's just a lot going for it. But then you've got this crossover where you've got a lot of people who are so used to WordPress that they don't want to move away from it. But they think that these headless technologies are kind of out of their reach, which is not really true, because with WordPress, you've got the REST API, and you can also use WP GraphQL, which is a plugin that you can add, which will give you, a GraphQL data layer on top, which can then be consumed by, your JavaScript front end to get you all those headless benefits. So like a lot of people, I think that headless WordPress is going to be the future of WordPress, and it's already started really with the introduction of React into the core, with the block editor and things like that. So I think that JavaScript's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and WordPress is going to be a big part of the future of web development too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I'm starting to see things like neighborhood restaurants and cafes, and their websites are built in React, and it's like super fast. And I think like there's so much potential for kind of like, old, slow, sites to really give an amazing experience to the users and be super fast, but in a way that I guess is they can still use WordPress, so it's still accessible to people. And, you're not asking like a small business owner to learn React or anything. So I was wondering as well, just to kind of like round out the show, are there any favorite developers that you can recommend following on Twitter, perhaps?
Good one. I've got a good friend called Gaia Kessler, and he's probably the best JavaScript developer that I know. And he does a lot of Node and React stuff, and we're working together on a little SaaS product for creators, but it's under my hat at the minute. So yeah, definitely give Gaia a follow. He's at Gaia Kessler on Twitter.
Awesome.
So yeah, I wanted to go with one that's not an obvious one. So I think he's only got 2,000 or 3,000 followers, but yeah, he's a great guy and an awesome developer.
Nice one. And yeah, it's always good when it's people aren't just super famous or anything. Do you have any like favorite tech podcasts to listen to?
Tech podcasts. I mean, I'm all listening to like entrepreneurial stuff. So I listen to like My First Million. The All In podcast, pretty good with all the VC guys. So yeah, they would be my two, and obviously the Tim Ferriss show is always pretty good.
Yeah, awesome. final question, what's your favorite site for people that are learning to code?
I always try and point people to like Free Code Camp because I just think it's, obviously it's free and it's got like an exhaustive list of different courses and things like that. So anyone looking to start and doesn't want to spend like tons of money, I would definitely start there.
It's like a really popular choice. Obviously, tons of resources and everything. I was just wondering as well, where can people find out more about you?
Cool, yeah. So the best place to get me is on Twitter. I'm pretty active on there. So I'm at Tom_Hirst. And if you want to just find out a bit more about my story and links to my products and things like that, you can go to tomhirst.com/about.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for the interview. And it was awesome also to have your text interview a little while ago on nosys3.com. Thanks for sharing your time with us again, and good luck with everything and your projects.
No worries, Pete. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. No worries.
Cheers.